podcast where me and my guests discuss discuss and debate the cyclical nature of the world through a pop culture lens. I'm Big Papa, your host. Every week, I try to make it more interesting by bringing my co-host in because apparently, you don't want to just listen to me talk. So we got to bring in a weirdo, the millennial. That'll be Noe.
Me, that's me. I'm the weird one.
And then we got to bring somebody in with a little younger thoughts about everything, and that's a Generation Z, Victor Jr.
What up? Glad to be back.
So about a year ago, I remember logging on to TikTok and kept getting reels as a stand-up comedian. It was hilarious in kind of an old school way. Obviously, I kept watching over and over. And then when Victor was in high school, he really got into stand-up comedians. Being the person he is, he always respected the classic comedians I told him about, but he started telling me about some names I didn't know who they were. But I would see him watch these stand-ups, and obviously very funny because he has good taste. I'm not sure who Vic Anoy's first stand-up comic was. Who the first one they ever seen, or if they even remember who they were.
Um, I
But
know.
so let me finish this part. Sorry.
Oh,
So I
sorry.
remember I was about 6 years old when I started. I was lucky enough to watch my first stand-up comedian, and I was lucky enough to live in a house that didn't have any filters. So one of my jokes to this day came from the special. I had some ice cream, and it is a 1983 Eddie Murphy Delirious, and the comedian I spoke about at the beginning was Mad Rife. Today we talk about comedians. Welcome to Random Reasoning. And obviously we'll go back into the conversation of do you remember your first stand-up comedian? Noe?
I do actually. So my whole family's grown to comedy. I actually grew up like hearing like Spanish comedy, like Mexican comedians, which is like a really weird culture if you've ever kind of like heard Spanish comedy. But I don't know if you haven't. Yeah, they're really dark. Like I was really young hearing really dark Mexican comedy, and then it just kind of. I grew up like in well, my brothers are bilingual, so I got like the best of both. And then like Richard Pryor, Robin Williams. I was a huge Robin Williams fan. Like these guys were saying some shit that I could even like wrap my head around. So yeah, yeah.
So we're gonna talk about some of the comedians, and we're gonna go in generation wise and talk about pre-90s. But I that is a question I am really interested in finding out who you guys' first comedians were you listen to. But also the second question to follow that up, Victor, is you guys both seen Delirious, correct?
I've seen bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Okay. It's always talked about with which leather outfit did he have on.
It's
And
the
that
red
was
one, right?
it's the red one, yeah. But
Yeah.
Vic, what was your first stand up?
I vaguely remember the George Lopez "Why Are You Crying" stand up like DVD that we had growing up. Like I vaguely remember it, and I only remember the punchline, which is the fucking title of the stand up special is "Why Are You Crying." But the one that I specifically remember watching more and more was Jeff Dunham. I think you guys liked Jeff Dunham a lot when I was like young, and then you guys liked Gabriel Iglesias. So we had like two DVDs, and it was two Jeff Dunham DVDs, and then there was two Gabriel Iglesias DVDs, and then those are the only comedy specials we had.
Jeff Dunham was the guy with the
With
puppets,
the
right?
puppets, yeah.
Yeah, he had the little jalapeno one.
Yeah, he
Yeah, I
had.
remember that.
So Gabriel Iglesias and Jeff Dunham were probably like the two comedians I remember the most growing up.
In the Mendez house, growing up, like I said, I remember watching Delirious, and the reason I remember watching that is because of the whole ice cream bit. I had some ice cream, and it's one of my favorite jokes that I remember seeing, and still to this day when I watch it's hilarious. But Jerry Lewis was really big in our house, and we would watch the telethon. You guys know who that is?
Jerry Lewis. No? You say in our house, but you mean like your house growing up?
Yeah, in the Mendez house growing up. No, you know who that is?
Yes.
Okay. Jerry Lewis was a comedian from I'm gonna say probably 50s, 60s. He had a bunch of movies. I mean, he was probably like the Adam Sandler from back in the day. He has a ton of movies.
He was the original Nutty Professor.
Richard Pryor, like look up to and stuff. Yeah.
What was that? No,
He was like pre Richard Pryor, like kind of like he's one of the greats like in comedy.
yeah, he was goofy, and he would make a lot of movies with Dean Martin. You know who Dean Martin is, of course,
Yeah.
with the Rat Pack.
Hmm.
And he was my mom loved him, so we would watch Jerry Lewis movies. And I never seen a stand-up comedy from him, but I mean, obviously we're not going to stick to just stand-up comedies. I want to talk about comedians overall. And but the Jerry Lewis was big. We would watch his telethon every year, and we would see, because he would do a telethon for I forgot what sick kids, but and I
What
don't
was the
even know.
telethon?
It was Labor Day weekend, and it would go like 4 days. And I feel bad because I don't remember the name of the charity it was for, but it was really big in our house that we literally keep it on the TV the whole weekend, Labor Day weekend, because mom loved Jerry Lewis.
So it was just like nonstop, something going on the TV,
Yeah,
or
people would show up there and they would give like money to him. He had a goal to
no?
reach every year, and people would show up. He would give them checks, and then he would go to other things, and other people would do skits, and other comedians would show up, and
Oh, I
it was
see.
just it was like, I think it was 3 days straight of Jerry Lewis telethon,
That's pretty
and
cool.
he would raise money every year. He passed away, I believe, in 2022, and
2017. He was
oh
91.
yeah, he wasn't young. But like I said, he was really big back in the old days, and mom used to love watching him, and we would watch him all the time. And I said we want to talk about a little bit of the pre-90s here, but I mean, another one that was very, very popular when I was a kid was Red Fox.
Red Fox.
Yes, Red Fox is from Sanford and Son. Another one you might know him from, Victor, is Harlem Nights,
Harlem Nights.
with the one he did with Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor. Well, Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor, when they were like gangsters in the early 20s.
I don't think I've ever seen that one. Have you seen it, Noe?
I haven't.
Okay, do you know who Red Fox is, Noe?
I don't.
Oh, Red Fox is hilarious. Red Fox was unfiltered. He was hilarious. And if you talk to a lot, if you like listen to a lot of the comedians from like the 90s and 2000s, they'll give. I mean, obviously everybody gets props to Richard Pryor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, Richard Pryor. I mean, everybody. Richard Pryor is pretty much like the Michael Jordan of comedy, right? I mean, I believe.
Richard Pryor was real big in the 70s and 80s, right?
Yeah, he passed away, I believe, in late 90s.
So was Red Fox like the equivalent then? The raunchy Richard Pryor of, like, I guess Dean Martin and
Yeah.
that last guy's era?
Yeah, he was, and they were in the 70s. They were real big. And Red Fox was he. I mean, he had a lot of Sanford and Son was a hilarious show he had going on, but he was in a bunch of movies that in his stand up comedy was very raunchy as well. But he would his he I'm trying to think about how I explain Red Fox, because he was different. Like me. Back to my red thought was Richard Pryor. Everybody talks about him. I even heard Chappelle talk about him one time. How he looks up to him, and how they think he's one of the greatest. Well, Red Fox was also really great in the 70s and 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, then you have Richard Pryor, of course, and then Eddie Murphy. I mean,
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy came out from that 70s, 80s. And we're gonna get into a little bit of the shows later on, but he was from the SNL brand, and I watched his story a little bit, and it's kind of crazy how he came up on that. But is there any other comedians you guys remember from that pre-90s?
Pre-90s.
Honestly, just again, like I guess just the influences of my 90 favorites. But my brothers were real into like pre-90 like comedy and stuff, especially my older brother. So like they were like common names like within my brothers, but I never really got into them.
Yeah, no, I don't have much experience with like pre-90s comedians,
Well,
to be honest. I know of Richard Pryor,
Yeah.
but I don't think I can even tell you what one of his comedy records was called.
Well, I'll give you two right now, and then if you guys don't tell me you have one of your favorite movies from these guys, then we're killing the episode right now.
Okay, that's fair.
All right.
I'm sure
Steve,
we've seen a lot of these guys in movies before.
yeah, Steve Martin
Oh yeah.
and Robin Williams.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Those were two pre-90s comedians that controlled the industry at the time, and everybody knows them from movies. But I've seen some Robin Williams stand up that was hilarious.
dude, yeah, he was saying some like crazy shit early on.
Is Bob Saget considered pre-90s?
I think he'd be more 90s.
Or
But
is
did Bob Saget
Jerry Seinfeld?
90s?
Okay.
But did Bob Saget do stand up? But do you know or no?
Yeah, he was a stand-up comedian
Really,
before
I
he was
didn't
a
know that.
TV actor. He's one of the well, he's not one of the first because obviously I'm finding out a lot of these comedians ended up doing like TV shows like Red Fox, Sanford and Son.
Yeah.
Um, but no, he was like that too. He was in a very successful TV show, but he used to be a very I don't know, mediocre comedian. They make fun of it in Entourage. That's why I even know about it.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
he's like the cocaine guy.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
he was a very
Big put me on that show too. When we went to
Entourage.
Jasper. Yeah,
Hell
Big
yeah.
guy put me on that shit.
Well, I mean, and Robin Williams, he did some guest episodes on Happy Days,
Mhm.
which was a show back in the early 80s. I want to say it was early 80s, but it was about the 60s. And he ended up getting his own TV show. It was called Mork and Mindy.
Okay.
And I used to watch Mork and Mindy religiously. He was basically an alien that came and he ended up living with this girl. And from what I remember, I think they fell in love.
Mhm.
But he was hilarious on that. And then obviously, I mean, what favorite Robin Williams movie? Go. What's the topic? Go for it. That's the
Flubber.
segment. Which one?
Flubber.
Flubber? Really?
Yeah.
That's coming from you. That shocked me.
What did you think it was going to be, Mrs.
You,
Doubtfire?
you were hooked on Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah, but I remember Flubber a lot more. I think it came to my head first.
All right. Noe? Robin Williams?
First film with him.
No, favorite.
Oh, dude, you're gonna think I'm gay, but
You
gay.
would.
I know. Dude, Aladdin, dude.
Mm.
That's like it's hard to get in. I don't know. Yeah,
His
Aladdin.
voice acting is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, my favorite Robin Williams probably wasn't even that much of a comedy, but he made it funny. It was Good Morning Vietnam.
Mm.
I
was a
guess
great movie.
Aladdin and like Goodwill Hunting, but
Oh yeah.
he's like a scary funny there.
And it's crazy how he's known for Mrs. Doubtfire, of course,
Yeah.
which was a great movie he did. It's a classic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he did
Hook?
so many movies. Yeah, Hook. He did another one he did was it Father's Day or something like that?
Father's
And
Day?
yeah, he was hilarious in that one.
There's
And
Jumanji.
he was the original Jumanji, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's also Dead Poets Society.
That was a really good movie. That wasn't a funny movie. Have you guys seen that one?
I've never seen it.
Okay, the Dead Poets Society.
Oh yeah, dude, I've seen that movie.
Yeah, Captain My Captain. I mean, that was a real good movie.
Dude,
But
have
I
you guys
mean,
ever seen What Dreams May Come?
No, I've
No.
never seen that.
Watch that movie, especially like that. That's like a masterpiece. Like yeah, I don't know. It's a very good movie.
Have you heard of World's Greatest Dad, Robin
Dude.
Williams?
No, that sounds really
it
sad.
does sound very
Dude,
familiar.
It was one of those movies that went straight to Netflix back in the day. Like I'm talking like when Netflix made it possible for everyone to start streaming, because you know how we used to order DVDs, but you had to pay extra to stream, right?
Yeah.
When they made it affordable, like just for everyone to stream, one of the only movies that was like good on there was like World's Greatest Dad. It's a Robin Williams movie from 2009. And it's about this dude who's a teacher at a school and he has a son. And his son is like the most fucked up kid in the world. And his son accidentally kills himself. And the dad's embarrassed of the way that his son accidentally killed himself. So he wrote a fake suicide note for his son. And it turns out everyone is in love with what the son was like, what they think was the son's last message. And so his dad, in order to find success in his son's death, I guess, he starts writing as if he was his son in notebooks. And he keeps finding, in quotations, his son's notebooks. And people are appreciating his writing, like, oh my God, if only he was still alive and he could still make us, like, smile with his writing. But it's really Robin Williams who's writing as his dead son.
I've never seen that one.
And it was it's a very sad movie, but it's really good. I think that's one of his later works that goes underappreciated.
Wow. Yeah, I did Robin Williams. I mean, he's to me, he. I used to watch him all the time. Every time he came out with a movie, I would watch it. Steve Martin, like I said, was another one. I love watching his movies. He would always put out some good comedies. I mean, my favorite Steve Martin movie is probably one you guys never heard of, but it's called The Jerk.
The Jerk.
Yeah, The Jerk, and that movie was that was probably like late 70s. And then when he did in the '90s with his Queen Latifah, I believe, or '90s to 2000s, Bringing Down the House,
Mm-hmm.
another great one. I mean, those Steve Martin, those movies always kept me laughing. But I never seen Steve Martin stand up, but I did see Robin Williams, and he was a different level.
I think the
And
Steve Martin that I got was Cheaper by the Dozen Steve Martin.
yeah, well, he always kind of had that same comedy going, but it was just different back when he was younger.
Yeah.
I mean, and then I mean, some other ones that I would listen to is what I would like watching, and his stand up comedy was really good too. Was Sinbad? You guys know who Sinbad is?
Know of him, never seen his comedy
The
specials.
genie.
Yeah, not the genie. No, Sinbad was a comedian. He had some really good comedy. From what I remember, he didn't cuss very much, so that's why a lot of people liked him.
He was a
And
clean comic.
yeah,
Damn,
but
he was like a Will Smith album.
yeah, exactly. And he was big during that like early '90s. Uh, in that like, different world. He was on the show A Different World, but
Okay.
he would always wear like the African style colors and shirts, and I mean he was hilarious comedy and comedian. I would watch him all the time as well. And
He was in Jingle All the Way.
yeah, he was the postman.
Yeah, he was.
Yep, that's Sinbad. And he was unfortunately he's real sick right now. That's kind of telling you my age because all these people I'm talking about were saying are either dead or sick. Steve Martin's still alive, by the way. Paul
He's so
Rodriguez.
acting,
Steve
too.
Martin play the banjo. Shit's insane.
I've never seen him. I've never seen him play the banjo.
Dude, he's like a master at playing the banjo. I know it has nothing to do with what I want. Which I think in itself is like somehow hilarious too. Like, what the fuck? Like Dave Martin just can play the banjo.
How far is Ben Harbor from Detroit, Ed?
Ben Harbor is I think about an hour and a half to 2 hours. I'm not sure exactly. I've never been there.
That's where Sinbad's from.
Oh yeah, he's from Michigan. He's
Mhm.
from Michigan. Paul Rodriguez, another one great that I remember watching and listening to. He was the first one I seen that was actual Latino.
Mhm.
I know he gets criticized a lot about his style comedy, and I know him and like George Lopez don't really get along.
Why?
Because the whole Latin Kings of Comedy thing, I guess they had some issues, and but they're not like best of friends apparently.
I feel like Latin comics are very gatekeepy.
Well, there's all kind of issues going on because I guess George Lopez is very defensive as far as who makes it and doesn't make it. From what I understand, but I'm not in that world, but that's what I understand. But yeah, there's some of the '90s. I mean, early pre-'90s stuff that I remember watching. I'm sure there's a lot of comedians out there, and I'm sure there's probably for you guys. I mean, you guys watch what you guys see now. You guys don't go back and look because I mean the comedy's different, right?
You know what's funny? I used to be real into like the original Kings of Comedy, like Steve Harvey stuff and like Dio Hewley and like Cedric the Entertainer and stuff. Those guys are fucking hilarious.
Yeah, but you ever go back and just watch like some stand up from back in like before that?
Yeah, you know what? I've seen some like George Carlin, like some old like that dude's always been funny. Like
yeah, he had like a real dry humor, right?
Yeah, like
the world's all fucked up and we live in it.
Yeah, it was so intense too, like the way he would deliver his comedy, but it was hilarious. Like it left you, I don't know. It was like one of those things where feeling dumb is funny, right? Like he made you feel dumb, like in a funny.
Like the absurdity.
Yeah, like some comedians make you feel dumb and it's mean, you know, like a mad gay guy. But like
other ones it's dumb, but we're being dumb together type thing. Yeah, I get that.
We're on the cesspool together.
Yeah.
Inside looking out, you know what I'm saying?
I think that's my favorite part about like modern comedy. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but modern comedy is very much like that. It's very embracing of the absurdity and not taking everything so seriously, and just enjoying like laughing with each other on stage. And that's I think you see that a lot too with like how people work with crowd work, like on YouTube shorts and TikToks, like all the comedians that like interact with their crowd.
Yeah.
They're very comfortable and their crowd feels very comfortable with them,
Yeah.
and it's very cool.
And without jumping too much forward, like you said, but I think back in the maybe 90s and early 2000s, it was a lot of the comedy was based on race. And it was, my race does this and my race does that. And it was funny, right? At the time. It's still funny. I ain't gonna lie.
Mhm.
But now I do see that comedy changing a little bit more, and it's more kind of like it's not so much that in a Mexican household, your Tupperware is a butter container, ha ha ha, it's more like you just said, and it's different. I mean, the '80s was different, the '70s was different,
Mhm.
but and just to close out this pre '90s, do you guys have movies from that era that you guys can remember saying, you know what, this is a comedy movie that I really liked from any of those comedians or one I didn't mention?
Cheaper by the dozen for sure.
Well, that was
Steve
'90s.
Martin. You said 90s, no?
No, pre '90s.
Oh. Those Chevy Chase movies, of course. Caddyshack.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Caddy. I forget. We didn't mention Chevy Chase. He was hilarious.
Nah.
And
And
Bill Murray. Bill Murray, another one, huh?
yeah, I like Chevy when he was young, but I also like him a lot as an older guy. Those 4 seasons of Community he was in, he's I think outdoes everything he's ever done in his career.
Yeah. Well, he's kind of like unapologetic in that, isn't he? Where he kind of just he says whatever's on his head. In mine. Noah, you have anything from that era?
Yeah, dude. You know what I love? I love like the airplane movies,
Mm.
like with Leslie Nielsen. Those movies are fucking funny as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a really dark, dirty humor.
Or Ghostbusters too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bill Murray's in that. I forget.
Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd,
Rick Moranis.
Rick Moranis.
He has a movie called Dracula Dead and Loving It. It's like a Mel Brooks like parody movie.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking awesome movies, dude.
Who has
Oh,
that?
we didn't even talk about Mel Brooks movies or like Monty Python.
Yeah, dude.
I never seen those movies.
You've never seen Monty Python?
No, I never seen them.
I think I showed you 20 minutes of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and I don't think it's I don't think at the time it was something that you really liked. But
I mean,
it's
Space
really
Jam was
funny.
funny.
Huh?
Not Space Jam. Was it Spaceballs?
Talking about Spaceballs?
Yeah,
I mean, it's the same type of movie, yeah.
yeah. Spaceballs was hilarious.
Mhm.
But I mean, we kind of go talking about the different ones, and people keep popping up. But I mean, look at John Candy.
John Candy?
Yeah.
From Blues Brothers?
Uh,
No, you're talking about from John Hughes movies. John Candy.
Yeah. You talk Uncle Buck.
Yeah.
Uncle Buck was John Candy. He came in a lot. He did a lot of movies himself as well. He did one with Steve Martin called Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Never seen it, but everyone says it's really good.
It is.
That was in 87.
Yeah, it's a great movie. But John Candy was another classic one. Pre '90s for me. I mean, as I've been saying them all through here. I mean, it's anything with those guys in it. I love watching. We would watch them at the house. Unfortunately, we didn't have access to DVDs like you guys have now or streaming. But when we got the cassette in, it was great. The VHS. But before we jump on a break, I just want to talk a little bit about the Eddie Murphy, Delirious and Eddie Murphy Raw. I mean, have you said you didn't see Delirious completely, right, Vic? But you seen
No, I've only ever seen like clips.
Okay, and no, have you seen either one?
Yeah, I remember seeing them. I remember seeing Delirious.
Yeah,
with my brothers and stuff.
Yeah, he had some classic ones in there. I mean, there was a McDonald's joke about how everybody would get McDonald's and his mom would tell him that he would go home and make him a McDonald's hamburger and on the stove and have a big ass onion sticking out of it with 2 pieces of Wonder Bread.
Oh yeah, I've seen that bit before.
Yeah, and then the one about him, Michael Jackson taking Brooke Shields to the award show. So I mean, if you've never seen Eddie Murphy Raw or Eddie Murphy Delirious, you got to go watch the whole thing.
Was his comedy like topical, like whatever was going on at the time, like he was talking about?
Eddie Murphy was, I mean, the whole thing about his name, Delirious and Raw, he was just, that's the way his comedy was. Like, he would talk about how, I mean, just a couple of jokes. It was one that he would say that he would go marry a girl from Africa or
Hmm.
something because he didn't want her to know about like the I want half. So he didn't want to marry an American girl, but
Yeah.
he would go marry a girl from that was butt naked on a horse, and he was like he'll marry her. He goes, but then she get over here and she get like, and somebody would tell her, and then that girl be in there talking about she wanted half as well.
Yeah.
I mean, he talked about Bill Cosby because Bill Cosby was, I guess Bill Cosby's son wanted to go see him one day, and so Bill Cosby called Eddie Murphy up and tried to give him a lecture and like how to be funny without cussing, and then he called Richard Pryor up afterwards, and Richard Pryor would say "fuck Bill." So I mean,
But
and he would do their voices to the, I mean, perfect.
Eddie and his brother Charlie were like the Entourage like brothers, weren't they?
Well,
Like
see,
drama.
I didn't know about his brother till later in life. I mean,
Oh,
and I go
okay.
back and look at movies later, and I'm like, oh shit, that was his brother in that movie. You know, Charlie
Yeah,
Murphy.
Charlie Murphy.
He was in it. And I read somewhere, but I don't know if it's true that Charlie was actually acting before Eddie was.
Yeah, that's what
Um,
I'm saying. I think he's like the drama of like that Entourage like little
oh, okay,
vignettes.
yeah, and I don't know how, like I said, I don't know how true it is, but I read somewhere, but yeah, because like that movie Harlem Nights, it was a movie from the early, I think I want to say late '80s,
Mhm.
maybe early '90s. Charlie Murphy was in that one as well, with Arsenio Hall, another one. You know, Arsenio Hall was another one that I would watch quite a bit, and he was in a lot of movies. In Coming to America, he was in that one, and he was Eddie Murphy's partner
Mhm.
when he came
I
from.
I know a lot about Charlie Murphy from Dave Chappelle from the Chappelle show.
Yeah, he
You
was.
remember
He
those
blew him
bits?
up, right? Yeah, he's well. No, I didn't. I don't know that one, but I know he used to be under, right?
Um, yeah, he definitely he used to be on the Chappelle show, but
Mhm.
they used to just talk about stories, like true Hollywood stories. It was like a bit Charlie Murphy's true Hollywood stories, and he had one where he played basketball with Rick James, and Rick James beat his ass while looking
Oh no,
like
that
so
was
like
with
flagrant.
Prince. He played
Was it?
basketball against
I
Prince.
think I think
Yeah.
it. I think oh, okay, yeah, it was with Prince, and another one. Rick James punched Charlie Murphy in the face and left a R on his forehead because he had the R ring.
It
I
was
have to go
great.
back and watch those. I never watched those.
Dude,
Um,
Dave Chappelle show was, just so we're on the topic. Dave Chappelle show was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Like
well,
no skit comedy has ever come close to what that man did.
when we come back from our break right now, we're going to talk about some of these shows, and Dave Chappelle being one of them. Because there's quite a bit of shows out there that help boost these comedians and help put them on a spotlight, right? Way before we had Facebook and Instagram and all this YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
These shows put some of these comedians that we probably would have never heard of if it wasn't for those shows. But we're
Yep.
going to get to them right after this break. We'll be right back. And again, we'll take a break from our friends at Ground Zero Jiu Jitsu. Um,
Those are
right back.
good.
Ground Zero Jiu-Jitsu is located in Ed Couch, Texas. We invite you to check it out. They have amazing gi and no gi programs. They have the biggest square footage space in the RGV. The second floor is for MMA. Bottom floor split between kickboxing, boxing, and jiu-jitsu. Plus full weights room. They are excited for the grand opening. Find them on Instagram and Facebook. Ground Zero Jiu-Jitsu.
Thank you for Ground Zero Jiu Jitsu. We're coming back to you talking about comedians this week. Just as a reminder, this is show number 9. Next week will be show number 10, which will be our season finale for our generational speaking. You will hear from us over the summer. We're going to talk on a couple more topics that are going to be just more focus based. And then we'll be back with season 2 starting next fall.
Hell
We,
yeah.
we talked about comedians that were pre 90s, and it was kind of my era to talk about it. And I kind of was asking these guys a bunch of questions about it. But I mean, I was more pre 90s and, watching TV, and obviously we didn't have social media or anything like that. But as we get into the 90s and 2000s, I feel like you guys are gonna have a little bit more to, input here, but we can't talk about it unless we talk about the shows that made them popular.
Mhm.
On our break, I mentioned that like, these shows. If it wasn't for these shows, we probably wouldn't know some of these guys. I mean, Jim Carrey, one of the, I mean, in the or was it 2000s, he probably made most money. He was big everywhere. Everybody, Jim Carrey was in
Probably
every,
in his peak.
yeah, but it was in the late 90s, I believe, as well. But if it wasn't for In Living Color, we wouldn't know who that was.
Hmm.
SNL, it made, I can't even list the comedians. To this day, it still introduces us to comedians we never knew. Def Comedy Jam, another one that was late 90s. The Dave Chappelle show. So, I mean, we can
Mad
talk about
TV.
Mad TV. Mad TV, I didn't get to watch that much, and it kind of went away quick, didn't it?
It was on for like 3 seasons, I think.
Okay.
I know of like famous writers that wrote for Mad TV, but also the most breakout star was Bobby Lee. He's still
Oh,
real big today.
yeah, I know who Bobby Lee is actually.
Yeah.
So, and this segment here, and we can talk about an individual show, or we can talk about a group together, how it did for comedians. But I just named a couple of the shows there. Like, I mean, one from my era was really big was In Living. Okay. No, you okay there?
Yeah, I'm
that
good. Sorry.
that Raspa's really good, ain't it?
It was.
I
um,
have a list here of 90s SNL cast if you want to go through the like SNL like
but let's
a little
go.
bit.
Let's go SNL.
All right. So Jimmy Fallon was an SNL cast member.
Didn't know that.
Adam Sandler, Anna
Of course,
Gasteyer,
didn't know that.
Dana Carvey,
I knew that.
Sherry O'Teary,
Mm,
Molly Shannon,
I knew that.
Will Ferrell,
Will Ferrell with
Sure.
SNL.
Yes, dude.
I didn't know that.
Tim Meadows. You know Tim
Cowbell.
Meadows.
I know
Cowbell's
Tim
good.
Yes.
Kevin Nealon, Colin Quinn, David Cockner.
No, no.
You know David Cockner. He's in a. I know he's in The Office for like an episode or two.
Okay.
Mike Myers, Chris Farley, David Spade, Norm Macdonald, Chris Rock, Ellen Cleghorn, Rob Schneider, and Dennis Miller.
See, I knew some of those, but some of I mean, I'm some of those names I don't know. But
I think if you had their pictures like I do
Okay.
right here, like yeah, you'd know them.
like Jimmy Fallon, I didn't know he was SNL.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there's those. I mean, some of the names you put out there are some of the biggest comedians, and for a good period of time there.
Yeah.
I mean, and like I said, I was big in Living Color. And Living Color put out some also big comedians. I mean, we have obviously the Wayans brothers. I mean, and there's like 30 of them. But one of my favorite ones is, if you ask me, I think he's the funniest one is Damon Wayans.
Yeah. I love Damon.
Major Pain.
Yeah.
And obviously you got Jim Carrey.
I think I love Damon Wayans, but I love Sean.
Sean is the more serious one, right?
Yeah. Well, Sean's the one in Little Man.
Yeah, that's Sean.
He's the gay one from Scary Movie.
Yes. Yeah, he is.
And Sean started off as a DJ on the show, actually.
Mm-hmm.
He was just a DJ, and then he joined the cast. But and then you had David Allen Greer. I mean, I think his name was Tommy Davidson. There was a couple of them that came out of there really, really
Jamie
big.
Foxx.
Jamie Foxx that came out for that one as well. I forgot.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx.
You know, the funny thing is Jamie Foxx never mentions like In Living Color. I don't know if they went off on bad terms or what.
No, I feel like he does.
No, I never really heard him.
When he was it's because he's not really in like interviews that much anyway, but when he was doing Django,
Yeah.
I remember the press were asking him about In Living Color.
Oh, okay. I mean, and then you go to Def Comedy Jam.
Mm-hmm.
Now you guys obviously weren't born yet. Well, no one was probably born, but in the diapers. When Def Comedy Jam came on, it came out. I want to say it was Friday nights or Saturday nights. I don't remember what it was, but it was on HBO, and we always wanted to watch it because it was a big thing. Because the comedians there was like people we never heard of, but they were hilarious. and the crowd interaction at the time was so funny because it'd be the guy in the front would always be laughing so hard, falling on the ground laughing, and
Yeah,
I mean, there's been skits made about it and how
yeah.
funny that people would act,
The
but
camera will pan and there'll be a dude just like slapping his knee and completely
yeah,
like falling overboard, and everyone
yeah.
else trying to grab him.
Yeah, that's how, and then it always was the same thing because at the end they would always call for Russell Simmons, and he would always come in and he would just say, "Drive home, be safe," and something like that.
Uh-huh.
And but
I
I
forgot
mean,
he was the host of that.
yeah, that was his show.
Hey,
And
Vic.
yeah,
No, sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but do you remember Jim Carrey's skit on Living Color where he plays Vera de Milo? He's like the gymnastics girl taking steroids.
yeah,
That's just fucking hilarious. That was like the first thing I remember seeing from Jim Carrey.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
He was like a skinny version of Gabby Garcia.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Oh,
was a,
I'm Vera de Milo.
and but back to Living Color was when he did Fire Marshal Bill,
Mm-hmm.
and then Damon Wayans was famous on that one for doing Homie the Clown.
Yep.
And then there was a girl when they did the Jamie Foxx did, and I can't remember the name. It wasn't Shanae, that was Martin Lawrence. But I mean, and then back to the Comedy Jam. I mean, there were so many other ones off of that show that came out famous. I mean, Vic, I don't know if you have a chance to pull it
I
up,
do.
but the Def
I have
Comedy
it up.
Jam comedies. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we've got Martin Lawrence, Mike Epps, Dave Chappelle, Bruce, Freeze Love, Joe Claire. You've got Ali Sadiq, who's pretty well known now. Todd Rex. You've got Ray, Chris Tucker, Cedric the Entertainer, Yvette Wilson, Vincent Osha, Ray. I already said him. Adele Givens, some more. You've got JB Smoove, of course, AJ Sanders, a bunch of names.
Yeah. Can you while I talk about that a little bit, can you go check out the Living Colors list?
Yeah.
But and so all those comedians, I mean, they got together not too long ago for a 25th anniversary or some kind of anniversary. But I think Kevin Hart even came out off of that show, and I mean, it's Martin Lawrence was originally the host, and he blew up eventually, and he didn't do it anymore. And I forgot the other guy's name who took over, but that it was they only had like a good 5, maybe 6 minutes on stage, but they would make their marks, and they would get famous off of these shows. You know, people would listen to them. No, did you ever get to listen to Def Comedy Jam?
Yeah, I did, man. Yeah, that was super cool.
It was a good show.
Like I grew up like on a lot of that like black comedy with my brothers, watching like Family Matters and Fresh Prince, and so I was always watching like Def Jam. You know who used to like a lot? Bernie Mac, dude.
Bernie Mac.
Bernie, yeah.
Why you didn't even say him on the list, did you, Vic?
No, he wasn't on there, but he was a big part of Def Jam.
He's probably one of the most famous ones that came off of there. I mean, he did a couple of movies before that. You know, obviously the first one was the House Party. No, was it House Party? No, it wasn't House Party. He came out in House Party 3. He came out in House Party 3, but
Mac show.
What's that?
The Bernie Mac show was good.
Yeah, the Bernie Mac show was great. And that was something like somewhat real, right? Because he adopted a couple of his nephews and nieces.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was in Ocean's 11 too with George Clooney and stuff.
Yep.
I'm just seeing that right now. He was in all the Ocean's movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah. Bernie Mac was the guy. If you talk to some of these comedians now as well, they talk about him, and like he was like the man. I mean, he didn't play around. They said he was legit. And there was another comedian that played in House Party 1. I can't remember his name, but he died and he didn't make it to the other movies. But he was hilarious as well.
Mm-hmm.
But did you get that list of In Living Color?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hold up, I have to go back a little bit because I used it for the house party.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Keenan Ivory Wayans. You got Jim Carrey. You got Damon Wayans. David Allen Greer. Tommy Davidson. Kim Wayans. You've got Kelly Cofield Park. You've got Sean Wayans, Marlon Wayans, Jamie Foxx, Jennifer Lopez, and she has a title. It's just Fly Girl.
She was a dancer on the Fly Girl. They had dancers at the beginning.
And, yeah.
She was a dancer.
J-Lo, Takea Crystal Kimme. You've got Kim Coles, Alexandra Wentworth, Steve
Mhm.
Park, Chris Rock, Carrie Ann Inaba, Mark Wilmore, Anne Marie Johnson, Carol Rosenthal, Jay Leggett, Steve Tompkins, Al Chalk, Lorene Gibson, and Greer Barnes, and Jermaine Fowler.
Wow. I mean, just look at those shows and what they did for some people.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was a diverse cast back then, man.
yeah, that's the thing about Living Color. It was so many different races on there. It's the list of comedians. But talking about a little bit of the '90s there and going into early 2000s. I mean, one of the obvious candidates for a comedian that made it, probably more money and probably through the both three maybe 4 decades now, Adam Sandler.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, and I know we're going off topic of the shows now, but just discussing '90s comedians and 2000s. I mean, I remember seeing Adam Sandler about '94 around that time, and for his first movie that I seen, I thought was ridiculous. I didn't like it. I didn't think it was funny.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently it wasn't his first movie. I don't know how it worked. It was called Overboard or something like that. And but what's it? Billy Madison was the
Mm-hmm.
movie that I became a fan of his, and he's been doing it for decades now. He started in the '90s. You mentioned Chris Rock there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Chris Rock has a weird, very weird type of delivery. I guess you gotta be in the mood for it. Am I wrong there?
I don't know.
I can see how you can consider him like an acquired taste.
You guys consider Chris Rock on your list of like somebody I would want to watch?
I don't
like
consider
Rock.
most of like the '90s like SNL cast as someone that people that like I would want to watch now.
Yeah.
I remember when Chris Rock made his last special, I was just like, yeah, I don't really care, man.
Yeah.
You're just kind of complaining about getting slapped.
Which
Yeah.
apparently they're still riding that wave. No, what you were gonna say about Chris Rock? What was that?
Oh, like I like his comedy, but it's very like I guess like 2-dimensional. I guess is the word I would use. Like I don't know. He's just like talking shit, and that's pretty much all it is. Where
Well,
like if you compare it to someone like Dave Chappelle, is like out there telling stories, man. Like,
Methodical with it.
yeah, he's like his delivery system is like super unique. Like he uses storytelling and like crowd work at the same time and stuff. I don't know.
Chappelle will plant a seed like 5 minutes before he tells a story, and then it will finally grow. Like at the end, he'll like it'll all come together to you once he says it, and it's like, God damn, Chappelle fucking did it.
Man is a comedic
So-
gardener.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be like the third or fourth time that you guys brought up Chappelle, and I keep trying to turn you guys the opposite way because I want to give the Chappelle the respect of the last couple of minutes of this segment and talk about him, but you guys keep bringing him back in every 5 minutes.
Dude, it's not our fault. He's one of the greatest comedians.
Yeah.
I know. I you know what? I wasn't a Chappelle. It's not that I wasn't a fan. It wasn't. I wasn't paying attention to a lot of stuff going on for many years as far as like comedians and comedy shows. Like I said, I would see Victor watching this stuff. But I started watching some of his stand up a couple years ago, and I'm like, this guy is hilarious. Like, he's great.
Mhm.
But before we go into the Dave Chappelle, the Chris Rock. I mean, his acquired taste. And another one that people have an acquired taste for is from that era is George Lopez.
Yeah.
I mean, I see people that talk about George Lopez and they go, he's funny, but he's kind of saying the same jokes. Or he's still on that same comedy of, my Mexican, my grandma, or this, this is how I was raised and this is how it was.
Okay.
But he's an acquired taste as well for some people. I like him.
He caters to a very specific demographic, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like, and sometimes you grow out of that. Like I used to like George Lopez as a kid. I thought it was funny, but now I don't. Like I don't know.
He's got this
like
new show with his daughter.
comedy
He's
as
got
well.
he's got a new show with his daughter, which I like. I think it's funny. But also because he's got that little kid from the Inky Boys on there, and I like to see that kid making it somewhere. So I watch it. Go ahead.
I don't like I know Chingo Bling came after all this, but I don't like Chingo Bling's style of comedy. Like it seems like our culture is just what is making the audience laugh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's
that's a
trying
lot
to,
of that
and
90s.
I get that it's trying to make us laugh at ourselves, but also like, how long are you going to do that for? And your whole career is based off of it.
Well, like I said, that's a lot of that '90s, and early 2000s comedy that was very race based. But yeah, you're right. We get to a certain point where it's kind of like, yeah, how many times am I going to hear the joke about the Tupperware and the
The
butter
fucking chancla, dude.
the chancla?
I
Yeah.
heard I heard so many variations on the chancla that I don't care anymore. It didn't happen to me in my lifetime. I feel like that was a thing that happened to y'all in the 80s.
Well, you said chancla and Noe ducks, so I mean, it's still funny.
I got the
Bro.
fucking chocolate, bro. Hell yeah.
Another comedian from that era had to be Kevin Hart. He came out in the '90s, 2000s. I know he has a lot of criticism right now as far as being, is he really that funny? Did he steal jokes? I mean, it's another one. I think
They
he's
think
funny. I
Kevin's
like him.
stealing jokes.
There was a couple of things going back and forth between him and some other comedians.
You know who steals fucking jokes is Amy Schumer.
I don't like her.
No, yeah, and rightfully so. I don't think a lot of people in comedy like Amy Schumer. She's like a industry plant.
Yeah, she's not very funny to me. And
It's the same thing like with Chingle Bling humor. You know, like it's like I'm trying to make myself the joke, but like it's annoying. Like Amy Schumer will just make jokes about her vagina because she thinks that's what makes people laugh. And because the audience that like she has on her live performances, they do laugh because you know most of the time they have a sign that tells you when to laugh if they're recording. You know, I don't know. I don't like Amy Schumer that much. She steals jokes.
yep.
You
No,
guys like Mulaney? John
John
Mulaney?
Mulaney.
Yeah.
I liked him a lot when I was in high school. I haven't kept up with him, but his joke delivery used to be on point.
Yeah, dude.
It's all like I like comedians who have that like voice and that have like a radio talk show host voice.
Yeah. He's pretty funny, dude.
I don't think I know him. But
I've showed you some John Mulaney before.
okay. I have to look at him, see him then. No, I mean, before we get into you guys' topic of Dave Chappelle, outside of Dave Chappelle, I mean, give me a comedian from the early '90s to, excuse me, from '90s to early 2000s, or even, I mean, I kind of want to wait till our second break to jump into the comedians now. So, I mean, give me something from the early '90s. I said it again. '90s, early 2000s that you can somebody that you like. That maybe we didn't mention yet.
Um, Somebody that I really dig is he's like early 2000s, I guess. Anthony Jeselnik and Mike Birbiglia. Those dudes are fucking hilarious. Early '90s stuff, dude. I don't know. Like we kind of talked about. Like again, I like Spanish comedy. There was this really fucking famous Mexican comedian named Polo Polo.
Mm-hmm.
But I know you guys probably haven't heard, but if anybody who's listening has heard of him, dude, he was like a fucking legend in Mexico. Like he was like these guys were doing like Shakespeare style like delivery of jokes. Like I don't know, Mexican comedy is like was on another level back then. But yeah,
And not to jump into Mexican comedy. In fact, I guess I'll give you a couple seconds there to get ready for the question coming to you. Okay.
Right.
Mexican comedy. If you really want to talk about back in the day, I mean, you had some great comedians. I mean, and I'm just talking about off movies here because I don't think they did stand up. But I mean, you got Cantinflas, you got India Maria. I mean, those guys were great back in the day. No, you probably watched them in your house, right?
yeah,
Go ahead.
dude. Like, in my house, we were real big Cantinflas fans, Capulina and stuff. Like, plus they were like merge them with like wrestling. Like we were real into lucha libre, so it would
Okay.
like hype us up even more. It
Yeah,
was really
there's a
weird.
couple. They showed me a Mexican comedian, and I can't remember his name right now, but he's got shows on Netflix, and um, I wish I could remember his name, but I watched one of his shows, and I was thinking like I'm not gonna understand this. I'm not gonna catch the punchlines. You know, obviously because Mexican, Spanish being, I was gonna say Mexican being my second language, Spanish being my second language. I was worried that I was gonna catch it, and he delivered so perfectly that I was rolling through the whole thing. And then we went to go see another comedian at a restaurant in Matamoros, and again I was worried. I was like, I'm not gonna catch all the jokes. I'm not gonna understand it. Man, he delivered it perfectly, I wish Victor could understand Spanish more, because Victor, you would have appreciated the jokes and how they were going about, and
Mhm.
it was more of like just a comedic, like, just talk about old times. And I mean, it was not like, oh, we're Mexican, we're fucked and this and that. It was more of just like a classic comedian stand-up show.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn. And I even told you, I said, if Victor understood Spanish, he would really like this, because it was something I walked out of it like, damn, we should go to more of these.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, because of the language barrier, I don't know a lot of Spanish comedians, and but I was glad I was able to see those guys. One on Netflix and one in person.
Oh
But
yeah.
to come back to the question there to you, Vic, I don't know, you had a couple of minutes to think about it,
Hmm.
but comedian of the '90s, early 2000s that you appreciate that maybe we didn't mention, not Dave Chappelle.
I mean, we didn't even talk about Gabriel Iglesias,
Oh, well,
but
and I don't know what Gabriel came out. That's probably why.
Gabriel was in the early '90s, late '90s and early 2000s.
Okay, because I didn't know about Gabriel till about 2007, 2008, I guess, when we moved to
Yeah,
Texas.
still the 2000s.
Yeah. Gabriel Iglesias is great. I mean, I love it. I still love his comedy. I mean, I don't think he has a show that's like. I think that he talks about something different every time.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, obviously he has that joke about food and but he changes it. It's not the
the
same thing.
the thing that made Gabriel like stand out to me was his voices.
Oh yeah,
He can talk to himself 40 times in like 5 minutes, with different
yeah.
voices.
He can have a full conversation of four people with himself.
Yeah, he's talented in that way. And
Yeah,
even like I remember when we first watched I'm Not Fat, I'm Fluffy, the very first DVD, I think. You remember, with the popcorn?
yeah. That
Uh
was like 2007, 2008.
yeah. And I remember after that just wanting to see more and wanting to hear more, and like going on the computer and just searching up Gabriel Iglesias comedy, and like seeing as many videos as I can. I probably, like, back then I probably rewatched the same like 40 like videos back to back, because like dude was just hilarious. And every time he talked about something, you were engaged and you were listening in. And
Mhm.
I know, like, comedians in their personal lives, but he was very open about his personal life and his
Mhm.
fucking comedy. And every time you got into a special after 2007, like, every time you watch one of his specials, it was like an update on this dude that you've been watching forever, and you see
Yeah.
how his life is doing. And it was really good. I enjoyed watching Gabriel Iglesias from what I consider the ground floor, which is just whenever I watched the first like special that was on DVD. But
Mhm.
as an adult, going back, and I've seen so many like interviews with him, he talks about the hustle, like, what it was like driving from venue to venue in California, and like having no money in his pocket afterwards, but being happy that he did the show in general.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Gabriel Iglesias, people talk about how Adam Sandler is it's like, I mean, an unsung hero because he takes care of his own people. Like, he does movies to make sure that everybody makes money, which is a
Mm-hmm.
great thing. That's one of the things I like about Adam Sandler. You see those memes or stuff about how he makes sure everybody at the table eats.
Yeah.
Well, Gabriel Iglesias the same way. I mean, some of those guys have been with him for years that were with him in those vans.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
and he does
And
that. And
he's not one of those gatekeepy like Latin comics.
no, no,
He's very been like supportive of everyone in the game. And it's real cool. One thing that you should know about him, he owns his tour bus.
yeah.
That's insane. No one owns their own tour buses. Tour buses are insane to maintain, and they're insane to just in general buy.
I know, and he talked about the driver in one of them. It was really funny.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he talks about everything. I mean, he talks about when he went on tour in a different country and how it was. And I mean,
When he went to Saudi Arabia,
yeah, and no,
yeah,
it was a different one. I seen it. I don't know what it was, Australia or something. I don't know what it was, But Noah, you a fan of Gabriel Iglesias?
I used to be. Yeah, dude. He put us fat niggas on. Like,
Yeah.
I have a pretty girlfriend because of him. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I was real into him, dude. Like growing up, his comedy kind of like faded for me a little bit. Because again, I got into like I'm some really weird comedy. Like, I may be weird or like that, dude. Right? Like, sound really weird.
Not new.
But I like really weird dark comedy.
Mhm.
But he definitely was like somebody I heard a lot when I was younger.
Yeah, I mean, I think Gabriel Iglesias is finally getting to that place where when you talk about certain people in the Latin community, you don't talk about them. Like obviously, you don't talk about Selena. You don't talk about Eddie Guerrero. And I think Gabriel Iglesias is getting to that spot, at least for me. And I know everybody I speak to, I haven't heard nobody say they don't like Gabriel Iglesias. And if you ask about a Latin comedian, I believe he's probably at the top of it. I mean, George Lopez was great. I mean, but for I think a lot of that what's that word you said, Victor? Gatekeeping.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
for
he's
being
a dick. Like he's a dick. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
for being that personality, I think it took him off of that pedestal a little. And Gabriel Iglesias just kind of slid in there without wanting to. And
Mhm.
I like Gabriel Iglesias. I think he's great. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm going to give you guys a comedian off me before we go to our second break that you guys probably don't know who it is, or if you guys do, you probably know he was a comedian. But John Leguizamo,
Oh yeah, dude. I've seen his stand up before.
yeah, John
Like his
Leguizamo.
old movies.
Vic, do you remember who that is?
Yeah, I know who John
Yeah,
Leguizamo is,
John,
but I've only ever seen like his theater.
yeah. Well, that's kind of how he does his stand up.
Okay.
He does his stand up in a one man show.
Okay, I get you.
Where he plays all the different characters, and he is hilarious. I think the first one I ever seen from him was called Mambo Mouth, and he was hilarious, and he played so many different roles in that one. I got to see him in person back when I was in Michigan. I went to go see him live, but it wasn't a comedy show. Actually, it was just a conversation on getting to know John Leguizamo. Like he would just talk about his movies and everything as far as what he went through and the movies he's made and the actors he's worked with.
That's cool.
He couldn't even have a full conversation with like 1 minute without just making you laugh. I mean, I think it's naturally to him the way he is. And I know he's very political right now as far as Latinos in Hollywood and the Latino community, which is, I mean, nothing wrong with that. A lot of people can't deal with it, and that's between them and themselves, honestly.
He came out in Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah,
Well,
I was about to say that's how you know he's got it off cuff like that. Because in Romeo
Yeah.
and Juliet, like, have you seen that Romeo and Juliet, Dad?
yeah, actually, and I just seen it in a somebody made a TikTok about it, which was really funny. But I haven't seen it in years. But I remember when he did do it, and there was like, John Leguizamo doing Romeo and Juliet, and
Yeah, he
it was
played
funny.
Tybalt. He played
Yeah, he
his
was
brother.
And I mean, he's getting older now, so he's playing a lot of different roles. I mean, he plays. The thing I guess I like about John Leguizamo, he doesn't always have to be the star. Like he's done roles where he's like not even the top lead at all. I mean, he's just an extra guy there as far as like then you know who he is, and he has lines, but he's not like in the first couple shots.
Well, I thought he was great in Chef.
Yeah, Chef. He was great in Chef. I like he's come out in John Wick a couple times.
Yeah,
He was in-
he's
he was in-
he's a mechanic guy.
Yeah, he's in John Wick 1, 2, I think, and 4.
Mm.
So I mean, he's come in a couple of those. But yeah, that's one that I like from the days, and he still continues, which makes me happy. And his last one that I seen was really good, and that was that one history of Latinos.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
was about to say he did do
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah,
that was kind of like both like stand up and Broadway. He was kind of going off.
Yep. But we're gonna go ahead and take our second break, guys, and come back. We'll talk a little bit about an article I found. And it's 25 greatest comedians of all time, and I want to see what you guys' thoughts on these guys. All right, we'll be right back.
Hi everyone, we are Virtus Apparel. At Virtus, we believe that fashion is more than just clothing, it's a form of self-expression. That's why we offer a wide range of stylish and comfortable outfits designed to fit seamlessly into your lifestyle. From casual wear to athletic attire, Virtus has you covered. Our collections are crafted with quality materials and attention to detail, ensuring that you look and feel your best in every situation. So whether you're heading to the gym, meeting friends for brunch, or simply relaxing at home, choose Virtus to elevate your look and embrace your individuality. Visit our website at www.virtusapparel.shop. And now, back to you, Victor. Thank you for choosing Virtus.
Welcome back to Rhyme and Reasoning. We've been talking about comedians, and we went through every decade from the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2015s. And I looked up an article, guys, and it gave the 25 greatest stand-up comedians of all time here.
Okay.
So I wanted to go through this list with you guys. Unfortunately, it doesn't give it in order, so I'm just going to throw out the names, and I want to hear you guys' opinion. You can do a yay or nay, or thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever word you want to use, but I just want to hear you guys' thoughts. So I'll go through the list real quick. All right?
Yep.
So the first name on the list is Robin Williams.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure, top 5.
Okay. Second one, Bill Hicks.
I don't know any Bill Hicks bits.
Yeah, he says he's a dark comedian. Not sure who he is. I thought maybe
Okay.
Noe would
He
know.
does say that.
No, man.
What?
Do you you agree with him being on the list or no?
Nah, I've heard of him before, but I've never heard any of his comedy.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Gary Shandling.
Nope.
Noe?
No.
Okay. Phyllis Diller.
No.
Okay. Noe?
Hold on.
I feel like these are people that like you don't even know either.
I didn't know that Hicks guy, and Diller I do know, but she wasn't very funny to me.
No, I don't know her. She's like
Okay. Tig Notaro. Or
Oh, she's funny. Yeah, she's or he's cool.
She or she?
Yes.
Okay. Victor, you know who that is?
Nope.
Okay. Patrice O'Neill.
Have you guys seen
I know Patrice.
the Dead Army of the Dead? The one we're in Vegas on Netflix.
No.
No, I haven't seen it.
No. Oh, well, She replaced some other comedian on there. She plays like this helicopter pilot. She's funny. She's like a girl comedian.
I know Patrice O'Neill, and I agree. She should be on that list.
It's a guy.
Patrice O'Neill?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I'm thinking of someone else.
Yeah, it's a guy. You know who that is, Noe?
Who?
Patrice O'Neill.
I do not.
Okay. Next one, Dick Gregory.
Mm-mm.
All right. Don Rickles.
Nope.
Don Rickles.
Yeah.
No.
You got to remember, guys, this is of all time, okay?
Yeah.
Time is a long time.
Yeah, man.
Bob Newhart.
Nope.
He was pretty funny. He should be on there. He was pretty funny. Here it goes. Red Fox.
Oh, that's that dude.
That's that dude we talked about.
Yeah. Check it out. In 1956, he recorded what was the first real stand-up record, the first of over 50 that he put out in his career. Not only was he a comedy legend, but he was also friends with Malcolm X, who called Fox the funniest dishwasher in Chicago. Sorry, back when Fox was known as Chicago Red.
I was about to say.
So
because Malcolm was Detroit Red, so they called it Red Fox, Chicago Red.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's funny.
I think without saying he has to be on the list, even though you guys got to watch him.
Yeah.
Dave Attell.
Yeah,
Dave Chappelle?
No, Dave Attell.
Attell. Never heard.
I've heard of him. I've seen his show before. He's like a cool comic from like the late early 2000s.
Yeah,
we didn't talk about Pauly Shore.
Dude, yeah.
A good reason. Stephen Wright.
Nope.
When Shakespeare wrote brevity in the soul of wit, he could have been talking about this comedy of Stephen Wright.
Okay.
I don't know who he is. Yeah. Okay, here's an older here's another comedian from back in the day. You guys probably don't know who he is, but if you've seen his picture, you would. Mort Sahl. Sahl. I don't know if you guys want to look him up real quick and see if you recognize him.
Mort Sahl?
Yeah. All right, the next guy, you guys are going to have your own personal opinions, but he's on the list. Bill Cosby.
He rapes people, so I think
Yeah, he does.
he's pretty funny.
Fucking know it.
I've seen every season of Little Bill.
He's-
That show name has like a different meaning now, don't you think?
I never even watched the Cosby Show, but
I did.
I don't like
He was-
Puddin' Pops.
Jerry Seinfeld, guys.
Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah.
I recognize that in some scenes of Seinfeld, he's very funny, but it's not my comedy.
Okay. Remember, the title of this is the 25 funniest comedians of all time.
He's in
Yeah.
the movie.
Mitch
he is in
Hedberg.
the B movie. I don't know
Mitch
Mitch Hedberg.
He looks like a 70s hippie. I don't know who he is either. Here goes one you know, Steve Martin.
Yeah.
Playing in the picture, playing a banjo.
Fucking told you, bro.
Oh man, I don't know if you guys can see it.
Oh wow.
Joan Rivers.
Nope.
She was pretty popular in the 80s. I mean, I don't know about her comedy though. Next one. Like I said, it's not no specific order, so don't give me no shit about how his name came up. Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Top 3.
All right. Chris Rock. Top
Yes.
25 of all time.
I think so.
I would agree. He's not my cup of tea, but he's up there.
Okay, Moms Mabley.
No, I don't know.
Another one you guys probably don't know, Lenny Bruce.
Lenny Bruce, nah.
You're right. We don't know.
Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, of course. How's there no Andrew Dice Clay or Joey Diaz or
I don't know.
like
I don't know much
Richard
about
Pryor
Joey
hasn't even popped up.
Number 25, Richard Pryor.
No shit.
Yeah.
Well, there was a number 24 too, but I thought you guys would agree with that one too. George Carlin.
I never heard George Carlin.
You never heard of George Carlin?
No.
No. If you can take homework from today's show, please, Red Fox and George Carlin. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I know we're gonna jump into something else here, but those are the 25 comics, and once again, it's all time. So we're gonna agree, disagree, because I mean, some of those things we don't know. But I actually failed you guys. I thought I was gonna give you guys a couple of minutes of Dave Chappelle. We haven't done Dave Chappelle yet, right?
No, we haven't talked about Dave
So
Chappelle.
before we jump into today's comics, I mean, I know you guys are fans. I told you before. I started watching Dave Chappelle a couple of years ago on some stand up, and I thought he is hilarious, and I can see why you guys like him so much. I just don't know any of his early stuff, and I never watched the show very much. Who wants to go first on that?
I'll talk about my favorite Chappelle Show bit if you want to like key up something, Noe. I'm gonna take that as a yes. He's muted.
Yeah.
So my
my
favorite Chappelle Show bit is it's funny that we talked about this because earlier we were talking about how a lot of the like 90s and early 2000s comedy, especially for like Latin comics, were very like, this is like my culture, like let's talk about it, let's deconstruct it. But this Chappelle Show bit is the when they're picking the draft, the race draft. Have you seen this one, Dad?
Yeah. When they talk about Wu-Tang.
Yeah, they talk about Wu-Tang. It's like the Chinese committee accepts Wu-Tang.
Yeah.
And everyone just goes fucking crazy. Tiger Woods, the bid between the white the white committee and the black committee. They don't want him.
Yeah, no, that I did see that one. I think you sent it to me. It was really good. No, what do you got on Dave Chappelle? You can talk about the show or whatever you think about him.
So I guess the first thing I should talk about is like fucking like one of the first movies I ever saw with him was Half Baked, of course. So and that had other comedians that I liked in it too, like Jim Brewer and stuff. So probably for sure Half Baked, and then I would watch like his stand-up comedy too, like his early stand-up comedy stuff was really, really, really cool. Yeah, so
There's a Chappelle Show bit called I Know Black People, and it's a Jeopardy parody. You guys remember
Okay.
that one?
No, I never seen
You
that
never
one.
seen that clip before? It's Jeopardy, but it's like saying things that like
Yeah, they like bring on like cops and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's really funny.
Yeah, and I know he's
Or
considered like a.
Bruce Bigums.
For sure.
He's the crackhead. He's the crackhead character that he's got.
Yeah.
Wayne Brady was real big on the Chappelle Show. If you guys remember Wayne Brady.
Yeah, Wayne Brady. He was big. He's a comedian that's based off of what they call that stuff when you pop something up off the top of your head and he has to make a
He's an
skit.
improv comic.
Yeah, he's real famous, real popular off of that, isn't he?
Yeah, Chappelle Show. I'm sorry, I'm just naming Chappelle Show bits, but it's the World Series of Dice.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one either.
Oh my gosh, Ashley
Like I said,
Larry,
I'm more of a Chappelle that just started watching his last couple of stand-up.
like stand up.
Yeah, his stand-up shows. And then I seen also the one he did. He did like they gave him like a award or something of the high school he went to. I watched that, and it was pretty good.
That was like a 5-minute set because they booed him off.
Not that one.
Yeah, it was that one.
He got booed off of Detroit.
No, he got booed off at his alma mater.
No, I don't think so because I watched that one. At least they might have cut it off. But when he was in Detroit, he got booed off because he was so high. Because he actually you told me the story, didn't you? He was smoking with
That's a different story.
Yeah. Who was he with? He was with
Danny Brown.
Yeah, he got booed off of it.
He was smoking weed with Danny Brown, and Danny Brown gave him some real strong shit. And 5 minutes on stage, he knew he was bombing, and everyone like told him he was bombing.
Yeah, but I mean, I know he's like a generational legend. I mean, he would probably be later on compared to what like Richard Pryor is, but I mean, I just don't know much about him, so I can't talk. But I know you guys had
He
much.
has like his first two stand-up specials too, like For What It's Worth and Sticks and Stones. They're really, really good. Like he's fucking hilarious. He's now he's like super different. Like he's rebuilt himself as like a comedian, but he's still hilarious. So I watch it with my wife. We laugh together at Black People. He does really good, dude. Like, especially like his storytelling method. Like he like, I don't know. He goes full circle on your ass.
I promise you guys some Dave Chappelle time, so that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
I just wanted to talk about Dave Chappelle bits.
He's an artist. He wouldn't let us.
I'm sorry, no, you cut off. Yeah, too much noise in the background. What you say?
I said you wouldn't let us. We were just trying to talk about Dave Chappelle the whole time.
And now that I give you guys the time, you guys are all quiet. But
we already said everything.
We said it throughout the podcast.
Yeah, well, that's cool. But let's get. I want to talk a little bit about today's comics. You know, I had Fluffy in my list of today's comics, but I'm sure you guys have a whole list of comics and there's different what's it called? Different the different areas now how they're becoming more famous. You know, we talked about in the early '90s how we had SNL was for years. It's still there, but we had In Living Color, we had Def Comedy Jam. You know, I mean, there has to be other things going on right now as well with today's comics. But what are some of today's and how are they making it big?
Dude, I really like Shane Gillis. I don't know if you guys heard Shane Gillis.
Yeah, of course.
Dude is super funny.
Shane's real funny. He's an SNL reject, but they're regretting it to this day. He's really cool. He's a cool comedian.
Shane too got fired from SNL, and now he hosted like an SNL. So, yeah, those guys are. He has a show too called Tires or something like that.
Yeah, it just came out on Netflix.
Yeah. So he's a funny dude. If you haven't heard him, Vic, you should check him out. I think you'll like his stuff. He's pretty funny.
Here's one that you guys both know, but they've been around forever. Is Joe Rogan and Bert Kreischer?
Yeah. You know, I've never seen Joe Rogan stand up.
You have. 90% of this podcast sometimes, Dad, is you saying I've never seen this, and then me telling you yes, you have. You've seen it.
Well, I don't remember some of it. In. We'll save that for next week's show.
Dude, he has that bit where he talks about that lady who tried to kill Obama in the White House. Remember?
Oh yeah.
He uses the stool on stage, and he's just going crazy with it. Just like Yeah, he's like really good. That's one of the best bits I've ever seen of Joe Rogan when he's describing the dude trying to kill Obama at the White House.
He does this Kardashian bit too. That's pretty funny.
Yeah,
But I know he has this comedy club now in
in
Austin.
Austin, Texas, mothership.
Yeah.
But you've also got Bert Kreischer from that like little group of comedians that have just like started popping out since like 2016. Bert Kreischer is the guy who tells the machine story. You've heard that
Oh
one.
yeah, the machine.
You know,
I like,
Van
I like
Wilder is
his
based
whole
on-
comedy thing. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Noe.
You guys ever seen the movie Van Wilder?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that movie
it's
is
based off him.
yeah, it's like loosely based on.
Because in the 90s, he went to Florida State University and he was like a party guy. Like he got involved somehow in some like, I don't know, production that they were doing at Florida State. And he just became the star of it accidentally. And then that started his life of just being like a party guy.
Van Wilder, but who's the actor in that movie? It was
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds, right? Yeah. That's what I thought. But that guy you were just talking about, he's the one that takes the shirt off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Bert Kreischer.
Yeah. I like him.
Um,
He's funny.
You've also got from the end of the Mad TV era, you've got Keegan Michael Key and Jordan Peele. They were both writers and they made appearances on Mad TV. They ended up leaving and making the Key and Peele show, which is like so big for like comedy in like the late 2000s and like 2010 era. I don't think you could scroll on Facebook at any given day in that time without seeing a Key and Peele skit.
One guy, the Michael Keegan, is always in Detroit for Detroit Lions.
They're both from Detroit.
Oh, really? I didn't know Jordan Peele was.
Hey, Jordan Peele fucking makes good movies too.
Yes, he went on to make Nope. He went out to make Get Out, Us. He's he was also the host of the Twilight Zone because they brought it back like 3 years ago.
So, Vic, you were talking about a comedy show that was happening at a comedy club. What was that exactly?
Oh, This Is Not Happening. It was a show that was actually filmed. I have it right here at the Cheetah Strip Club in Hollywood. Not I said Vegas off the air, but it was the Cheetah Strip Club in Hollywood, and it was a show hosted by Ari Shaffir. And Ari Shaffir is just one of he's like a comedian. He's your favorite comedian's favorite comedian. He's that guy that's like underground that everyone likes, and he's real popular. And he just knows a lot of people. So the premise of the show, This Is Not Happening, is that he invited a bunch of comedians that were his friends to tell real stories. And that's how he would start every show. So this is Bobby Lee. He's one of my really good friends, and everything he's about to tell you is going to be true. And then it would cut to Bobby Lee. Like the first episode, I'm looking at the season list. The first episode is a banger. It's Bobby Lee and Keegan Michael Key tell their tales about the crazy and hilarious experiences they have while taking different kinds of drugs. This was like the thing for every episode. So every episode had like a theme. So episode 3 is called Family and has Ralphie May in it and Rob Caudry. And like they're just telling real stories. And you got to know these comedians that you only really saw like in a lot of these guys were just like guest appearances on TV shows at the time. They're all living in Hollywood at the time. They were just being actors. So after they got on This Is Not Happening and they got to show off more about, their stand-up, that's when like they all became like real big comedians. Like
what was the time,
in there. Huh? This was on HBO. I mean, not HBO. I'm sorry.
Comedy Central.
Comedy Central. Yeah.
Okay.
This
Comedy
was
Central still around?
They're still around, but they canceled things like this, and that's what that's why a lot of sorry something fell in the kitchen. Comedy Central fell apart, and so a lot of comedians in the modern era had to find somewhere else to put their comedy specials and to get noticed, and they ended up on YouTube or Twitch or daytime TV.
So this show was kind of like in its own version of In Living Color and.
Well, it was less. There was no skits. It was just 15 minutes of stand up from 3 people.
I meant as far as help boosting the careers.
Yeah, it was like that.
That's good. I mean, can you go back and watch it somewhere, or is it?
It's all. I think they have it all on Paramount now.
Okay.
Yeah, like they even had like famous people who weren't comedians necessarily. Like, there's an episode with Henry Rollins in it.
Mm-hmm.
From Black Flag.
Yeah.
He was also in a few episodes of Sons of Anarchy. He was the white supremacist.
Okay, yeah.
But in that Henry Rollins episode, it's real cool because, like I said, they're supposed to be real stories. That's the premise of the show, and you get to see sides of famous people that you've never seen before. In this case, Henry Rollins. At the time, he was trying to be an actor. This is 2016. He'd already done his stint on Sons of Anarchy. And when he tells his story about the first time he was rolling with the Black Flag crew, because he wasn't the original lead singer of the group, he was like the secondary guy. You got to like hear what that was like, and it was really cool.
Well, we're getting close to the end of the show here, so there's a couple of things I wanted to talk to you guys about. But just so you know, like the people that I know, unfortunately, are just people I know from like the TikTok or people I see that like you sent me, Victor. You know, like I told you, I mean, I still watch Fluffy. I know Ralph Barbosa was somebody that was blowing up last year. I believe he's still blowing up pretty big. I don't know how he's doing as far as his career goes, but he still pops up on all my social media. But the one that nonstop is the guy I quoted, not quoted, but the guy I talked about at the beginning with Matt Reef.
Rife.
Rife. Sorry.
You asked me how to say it right, and then you said it right twice, and then you said it wrong.
I mean, he's been like he goes. I feel like he tours all year nonstop. And every time I see him, is like the comedy I like about him is like he feel like I feel like I never seen a full show from him. So let me say that first. I never sat down and watched a full hour of him, but just the skits that I've had seen of him, I feel like he goes off of the crowd and he just goes off the top of his head and just starts going from there.
Well, you know where he gets it from, right?
No, what's that?
Fucking 10 years of Wild 'N Out.
Oh, that's where he's from?
Yeah, he's like he was one of the OG cast members of Wild 'N Out.
Oh, well, I seen an interview where he said he was about to cut, like, just call it a day on comedy, and then somebody posted a video, and then all of a sudden he went viral, and then that's how he's been nonstop since then.
Yeah, he was a cast member on Wild 'N Out, and so like Pete Davidson was too. We didn't even talk about Wild 'N Out, to be honest. But a lot of those guys are like internet famous people who became comedians. And yeah, Wild 'N Out's great.
Well, Wild 'N Out puts a lot of comedians out there. I mean, just watching the show is funny. I mean, I don't really consider Nick Cannon a comedian, but
have you seen Real Husbands of Hollywood?
No, I've never seen it, but I've heard it's funny. And every time I want to watch it, I can never get myself to sit down and start watching it.
You got to pull the trigger.
I think it's like okay. I think it's like 6-7 seasons already, and then I feel like, damn, I got to go back and watch all that. You know,
it's so worth it. It's funny. It's one of the funniest shows I think I've ever seen, just randomly.
Well, I have to go back and watch that. Then
have you guys ever heard of Mike Birbiglia?
No,
dude. Like, he's like probably one of the most unique type of comedians I've ever heard. If you guys ever get a chance to, he's got some stuff on Netflix. But like his comedy is really fucking like unique, but like it's really good. Like this dude writes shows and stuff. So like his special is like I don't know. You have to watch it.
Formulaic and like really thought out.
Yeah, dude, it's super. It's like a fucking ride. Like
That's
it's
cool.
super awesome. He's a super good comedian. He just did like this documentary too on like the writing like process and stuff. So it's super cool. He's a really good fucking comedian. Like really good.
Since we're here talking about our favorite comedians too, I think you guys should check out Stavros Halkias if you haven't heard of him. Noe, have you heard of Stavros?
I haven't.
Stavros Halkias is one of these new comedians that have been coming out. He was real big for having a podcast on YouTube. Oh, it wasn't even on YouTube. It was very hard to listen to this podcast, and that's what made it popular, is that they were posting their episodes randomly in different spots, not even complete episodes, and people would piece them together and make clips of them. But it was a podcast with Adam Friedland and Nick Mullen. Stavros
I know who this dude is.
Yeah, he was the dude from Cumtown.
Yeah.
That was the name of the podcast, and he ended up leaving Cumtown, and he became like more serious about being a comedian. And his big thing at the start is that he's very like body positive as a big guy. He's like fluffy size, and he when he first started, he didn't have his he didn't have one of his front teeth. He had chipped it like biting on chicken wings, and he tells that story all the time. He's very like comfortable with himself. He did a nude photo shoot, and like his Instagram is just filled with like his body and stuff. So like he took that with the thing that people would usually stop him from being like famous and like funny, like a successful comedian, and that's like his bit. And but besides that, he's also one of the most successful like YouTube comedy dudes because no one he was shopping around to get people to buy his special. So he went to like HBO, Netflix, Hulu, all these people, and he couldn't really get a good buyer for his comedy special. So he just produced it himself and posted it on YouTube. And within the first day, it had millions of views. Like it was unheard of. And so a bunch of comedians started following that trend after him. And so it's putting a lot of money back into the pockets of comedians and having ownership over their hour and 15 minutes of jokes.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I've seen this guy's stuff. I've seen like bits of him like in New Orleans and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's real. He was also one of the ones I would say started the whole trend of crowd work on like YouTube Shorts and TikTok.
Yeah.
Before Matt Rife was doing it and before Ralph Barbosa was doing it, Stavros was there, and he would just like start whole ass conversations with people in the stand and just like roast them essentially, like talk about their jobs. And he knew very much like in his, you can tell in his joke delivery and the way he speaks to people that he's aware that like everyone's just in it for a good time, and he's not trying to hurt anyone's feelings, like really, but he'll say things that are very hurtful, but everyone's laughing because it's like it's absurd. It's very absurd because this dude with no front tooth is saying all these things.
Yeah, he's a funny dude.
You mentioned something there about putting money back in their pockets. That segues me to the last question of the day. So my question is this. Do you think this all stand-up comics that make it successful translate to Hollywood TV or movies?
No.
Not all of them.
What's a good example?
An example of someone that did do it was probably like Jerry Seinfeld and George Lopez and Ray Romano and all those guys. But like there's so many forgettable like NBC shows that came out in the past 20 years that I can't even name like most of those comedians, because if they were already on an NBC show, I probably would never hear about them and their comedy.
Yeah, or I don't know if you guys ever heard of Dan Cummings.
I've heard of him.
He's a really good comedian. He's actually super popular for his podcast, which is like about like history stuff. So he talks like real history on like Harriet Tubman and like famous people like that. But he says like, I don't know, he's like a history buff, but a super good comedian too.
Like Shane Gillis.
Yeah. But he doesn't really translate to TV or movies. Like you've never seen him in anything like that.
Yeah.
But he's like still super fucking famous in like the podcast like scene or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all in agreement on that because I've seen a couple movies, and I mean, off the top of my head, I probably couldn't name them, but a couple movies and a couple of different shows that I watch, and it's kind of like not the same guy you see on TV, on the stand-up show. So, fortunately, we do have enough comedians out there to keep us laughing, and we can keep watching them to keep it going. But guys, we're gonna call it a show today. Any last words before we hit the closing?
You guys should definitely check out Stavros Halkas. He's a great comedian. And that's about it.
All right, Noe, any last words?
About
comedians.
Just because we didn't really dive into this, but you guys should hear like really dark, fucked up comedy. Like it's funny. Like really bad stuff can be really funny too.
Like who?
Like if you want to start off, if you're not into dark comedy, fuck with some like Daniel Tosh to like put the tip in, and then like
like Tosh.0. Yeah, Daniel Tosh.
Yeah, like his dude. Yeah.
So
like
what is dark comedy though? Like I mean, just shit like you shouldn't be talking about, or
I don't know. It's kind of like. Well, go ahead, Vic. I want to hear what you're gonna say.
So like a lot of like This Is Not Happening episodes end up being comedians telling like real fucked up stories about like their life, like on the road. And the thing that's like, it's not that it's funny, is that they're at a point where they can take that back and make it funny for other people to enjoy and feel better about it, right? So when I think of dark comedy, I think of things like that. Like there's this one, Jim Brewer. episode of This Is Not Happening, and he's talking about his drug addiction, but you can tell like he's at terms with it, and he wants the audience to realize they can be too. But he's talking about the real deep throes of addiction, and it's really interesting. That's like dark comedy. I think is like people who are unapologetically sharing like the fucked up parts so that you can laugh about it and not feel bad about it.
Is that what you were talking about, Tuna?
Yeah, for sure. Like definitely stuff that takes a while to turn like that.
Yeah, I would probably
There's like
struggle
there's
on
like
like
yeah,
Joey Diaz. Joey Diaz is the perfect example of that.
yeah.
Like Joey Diaz has a special not no he has an episode on This Is Not Happening where he talks about the first time he ever did acid, and it was like the biggest dose he'd ever take for the rest of his life, but it was the night that his mother died. Like he woke up the next day and he remembers he was telling the story about how rebellious he felt and like, oh yeah, fuck everyone, like I'm a teenager in the 70s, I'm gonna do what I want. And then like the story ends, he's like, and the last time I had a conversation with my mother was in the kitchen, and I was trying to hide the fact that I was high off my mind. And you sit there with it. And in an interview like years later on that one dude, Andrew something from
Oops.
yeah, Andrew Schultz from
Yeah.
New York. He's talking about that, like, This Is Not Happening episode, and he goes, and I dropped that bomb on the audience about my mom being dead, and I wanted them to sit there for a moment and like just like feel it, and I wanted to see them like their reactions to it, and then I wanted to just pretend like it didn't happen and just keep talking and keep saying funny things that aren't specifically about his mother dying, but he wanted them to be on a roller coaster of emotions. He feels like comedians are special in that way, where they can take you on a story or they can just tell you a joke. But most of the times in today's comedy world, it's a lot of storytelling. We're getting really comfortable with these with comedians telling stories about their lives and taking you on these trips, and you not even notice that you're in a room filled with people also feeling the same thing.
Okay, I have to. I mean, I don't. The way my personality and everything is, I don't know if I would fall into that, but definitely give it a try. But
It's funny, like like we've all been through some shit. Like I know you're who you are, but especially now, like you are who you are now because of some shit we all went through, right?
yeah,
So like just to hear that perspective sometimes is that's why I like dark comedy, because it's like, oh yeah, like everybody's life's kind of the same, right? But,
Mm-hmm.
you're
yeah,
also
Not
weird.
alone.
yeah,
You're also weird. But
true.
all right, guys.
Um,
Well, we're gonna call it a show, guys. Appreciate it. Next week we're gonna get together and try to get the whole team together with Deanna, Oscar, Noe, Victor, myself, and we're gonna just have fun on our last episode of the season. Don't forget, over the summer we're gonna have a couple of
One shots.
one shot topic specific items that are gonna be nothing but like these shows as far as generational speaking. We look forward. I think Noe's already come up with an idea, and then Victor's already come up with one here. And there's probably a couple more out there. I did have somebody tell me that they want to continue. They would like us to continue all summer, which is it's a good feeling to know somebody's out there listening, right?
Hell yeah.
But I mean, the numbers do show that we do got some people that do listen, so that's also a great feeling.
I have a thing that I want to pitch real quick on air. I want to invite Alec, my brother, to the podcast, and I want for like maybe it doesn't have to be like every week, but like every 2 weeks during the summer, we do like a book club where we read comic books and we talk about them. And people who are listening to the podcast and want to join in, they can read what we're reading when we post it on Instagram. We'll post like, hey, we're going to be reading this, so read it before like this week, and you can listen into the podcast, and me and Alec will talk about it.
Sounds great. Sounds
cool.
great.
Little comic book club.
Oh yeah,
sounds great. We'll go ahead and put all the ideas together and get them out to everybody. And once again, we got episode number 10 next week. We're going to record this week. We're going to put this episode out. Continue supporting us. Please make sure you guys comment on Instagram or on Spotify, Google, Amazon, or YouTube. I do read them, and it's good to see. I share them with the guys. But no, just in case they want to reach out to you directly, where can they find you?
Anything Ground Zero Jiu-Jitsu on Facebook or Instagram, just look me up on there. And, yeah, hit me up about whatever.
Hit him up in anything. Dark comedy.
Yeah. Or
Yeah, send
ATP.
all your bits to Noe on
Yeah.
Instagram.
I'll,
All your bits and nudes go to Noe, please.
here's Victor's personal email. It's
Victor, where can I find you?
Everyone can find me at Victorino_MP4 on Instagram. If that's too complicated for you to type out, it will be in the group Instagram for this podcast.
And our Instagram page is Rhyme and Reasoning _podcast. Please, like I said, send us comments, send me notes, or on the podcast itself. Just go ahead and send us a note. And like I said, we get some every week, and it's good to hear. Well, guys, thanks a lot. I appreciate your time as always. I look
Hell
forward
yeah.
to next week. And somebody just gave us.
It was me.
It was Victor, just like the one thing on Instagram. Perfect timing. And we're gonna leave off on Big Papa's words. Thanks again, guys. I'm gonna start this with a quote. Stop being afraid of getting older. With age comes wisdom and confidence. So I had a close friend of mine in high school. His name was Alfie. Victor remembers who he is. I think I've talked to Noe about him quite a bit. Alfie loved to laugh. He always told me that I needed to relax and laugh more. I was a teenager and felt it was me against everybody. And he would always laugh and remind me it wasn't that serious. Even as an adult, he would remind me of this. So a few years back, we lost Alfie. And I remember thinking at his funeral, he was right. It still took me a couple years, but his advice is in my head daily as a smile. As a smile is my best quality. Well, at least to me it is. In my eyes, it's my smile. The quote at the beginning is so true, and we go through these podcasts with all my co-hosts, and I can only hope to see the difference I have become over the years as my age gets higher, but with wisdom, confidence, and more importantly, laughter grows. My laughter grows. Oh, and that quote, it was from Robin Williams. This is Rhyme and Reasoning. We'll see you next week.
Woo.